With development tools being accessible to all and the rise of digital publishing platforms like Steam, there are more games than ever that are being released every single day. Of course, AAA games get a lot more recognition due to large marketing budgets and pre-established hype, but there are a lot more games that also deserve love and attention. With this feature, we will be talking about 15 such single-player games that aren't the most popular but definitely deserve to be on your playlist. Viewfinder. Viewfinder comes from the masterminds at Sad Owl Studios, and it's a puzzler with a very unique premise. The game allows you to take pictures and place the Polaroids anywhere in the level, which magically meshes up with the level to open up new paths. Viewfinder does a great job of taking that core concept and exploring a vast number of possibilities with its set of puzzles. And while the story could have been better in a few aspects, Viewfinder is definitely worth your time. Rain World. Rain World takes place in a dystopian world that's been beautifully brought to life through some really interesting art direction. You play as a cat who must traverse through this world and defeat all sorts of monstrosities that lie within the deepest corners of this vast space by making use of a simplistic yet fun combat system. Rain World also features procedural map generation that ensures each playthrough is unique, so you could spend dozens upon dozens of hours in Rain World without getting bored. The Entropy Center. The Entropy Center tasks players by reversing the destruction of Earth by solving puzzles that will generate enough entropy to rewind the flow of time itself. The Entropy Center can be weird like this at times, but the core gameplay of using your gun to manipulate time is a consistently fun experience nevertheless. The game manages to strike a great balance between exploring each puzzle mechanic deeply and introducing a new mechanic just before you have a chance to get bored of it, and that balance can be really tricky to nail. The Hunter Call of the Wild. The Hunter Call of the Wild trades a convenient fast and frenetic gameplay loop for a more methodical, slow-paced way of things, and remains all the better for it. It's a realistic hunting game where you must study your prey, make all the necessary preparations, and then finally line up the perfect shot to down various animals. It has somewhat of a steep learning curve, but once you overcome that initial hurdle, The Hunter can be a really fun game to keep playing for hours upon hours. It's definitely not everybody's cup of tea, but it's worth a shot nevertheless. The Long Dark. The Long Dark is a brutal survival game where you must endure tough situations with limited resources as you embark on a massive trek across a huge map. It's one of the very few games that truly capture the essence of enduring frigid temperatures and challenging conditions, since there are no traditional enemies to speak of. Death comes quick in The Long Dark, and the permadeath mechanic can lay waste to literal hours worth of progress. So you really have to be stocked on supplies when you're out and about. It's a brutal game through and through, but overcoming these challenges provides a distinct feeling of self-satisfaction that you probably won't find anywhere else. Void Train. Void Train is a rather unique game where you must craft and upgrade your train as you make your way through increasingly tough levels. These mechanics really go well with the imaginative world and the fast and frenetic shooting that accompanies these train rides, and all that comes together to make a really fun and fresh experience. It looks good, plays well, and is definitely worth a shot. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk is a love letter to the Jet Set series, and it's a glorious throwback in more ways than one. The movement system is excellent, and chaining together different combos remains engaging through and through. The art style also pays homage to its inspirations while also infusing a bit of its own touch into the mix, making it an absolutely joyous experience from start to finish. Trepang 2. Trepang 2 is all about gunning and running through arenas, and that core gameplay loop is an innately satisfying mechanic that rarely gets stale. The story might not hit its stride, but Trepang 2 knows what it does best, and does a good job of keeping its strengths at the center of the experience. The fast-paced shooting mechanics really go well with special abilities like bullet time and cloaking, which creates an open-ended gameplay loop where you can swing in and out of cover to take down entire squadrons of enemies. Back to the Dawn. Back to the Dawn thrusts players into prison after your furry protagonist gets framed for a crime it didn't commit. So you must do everything in your power to find a way out of there. You can make friends or foes, engage in conversations to understand the many loopholes in the system, or look out for vulnerabilities to help you chart a safe path to the outside world. It has some interesting gameplay concepts, along with a focus on player agency, so it might be worth a look. Sword and Fairy 7. The Sword and Fairy series is slowly starting to gain traction among gamers, and Sword and Fairy 7 Together Forever is a commendable effort from developer Softstar to translate its offerings to the whole wide world. Sword and Fairy 7 features a vast net of combat mechanics and progression systems, and its action-packed combat loop has plenty of neat tricks that you can use on enemies. The story is also pretty engaging from start to finish, so you'll find plenty to love if you give this one a shot. Icy. Icy looks like a simple game on the surface with its cartoonish art style and side-scrolling gameplay, but once you look past that initial veneer, you'll find many markings of a truly wonderful game. The story is really intriguing and plays with the player's subconscious in some amazing ways, and that, combined with the fun slasher combat, makes for a wonderful time through and through. Killer Frequency. Killer Frequency puts players in the shoes of a radio host who must answer police distress calls that have somehow been diverted to the studio, and we can promise that this premise is as wonderful as it is weird. Killer Frequency tasks you to solve puzzles by finding helpful items around the limited space, and that mechanic is executed really well, which makes it feel really fresh. The killer mystery at the epicenter of it all is also intriguing in a similar fashion, which keeps you engaged throughout its runtime. Visage. Developed by Sad Square Studio, Visage is a first-person psychological horror game that has a knack for constantly putting you in horrifying situations that will scare you to the bone. It takes a familiar setting, like a house, and expertly turns it into a horror playground through its ominous atmosphere and excellent environmental storytelling. It takes cues from horror classics like Resident Evil and Silent Hill and crafts an experience that's equal parts fresh and recognizable. Add to that some gorgeous visuals and a genuinely engaging story, and Visage becomes really hard to pass for any horror game fan. Gusion 3. Gusion 3 is yet another game that rarely gets discussed in mainstream gaming, which is a big shame, because it's a fantastic RPG with plenty to love. While there are a few flaws with the combat system, it's still a really fun time to see your character juggling between slashing heavy swords and using special abilities. The visual presentation is also really high quality, and that combines with some excellently choreographed action cutscenes to make for a consistently enjoyable experience. Lost in Random. Developed by Zoink Games and published under the EA Originals banner, Lost in Random is an underrated gem that more people should try out. The game takes place in a dark fantasy world where every citizen's fate is determined by the roll of a dice, and you must embark on a grand quest to rescue your sister who's running short on luck. The world is very well realized, and the writing is also surprisingly quality stuff. The combat loop is a mix of real-time and turn-based elements, which makes it all feel really fresh and new. And that brings us to the end of the video. A quick request: we upload new videos every single day, and if you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing. It really helps us out. Also, don't forget to enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon so that you can receive daily video updates. Thanks for watching.